Good afternoon from Chicago, Illinois. I am Lucy Gray, one of the co-chairs of this conference, and I'm really thrilled to bring to you today our keynote, Jennifer Vollmann of New Global Citizens, and I'm going to read a formal introduction to her in a second, but I just thought I'd let you know that her husband also keynoted for us last year, Jamie Catholic of Google. And so I think this is a first. We have a tag team from one year to the next of a husband and wife. So we're thrilled to have you here, Jennifer. It was very funny a few years ago because I've done some projects with Jamie, and Jennifer was answering an email from me in this context of the Global Education Conference, and Jamie happened to see it and said, "How did you know Lucy?" So I had no idea that they were related, and it's a very small world, and a very good small world. We're thrilled to have Jennifer here today, particularly because she just had a baby, a lovely baby girl. And congratulations, Jennifer, too, on the birth of Azella, if I have her name right. So here's the formal bio of Jennifer. Jennifer Vollmann is the Executive Director for New Global Citizens. New Global Citizens activates and prepares youth in elementary, middle, and high schools across the country to become engaged global citizens. New Global Citizens after-school programs, classroom curriculum, and professional development develop student skills in global competence, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and digital literacy. As Executive Director, Jennifer is responsible for overseeing the New Global Citizens Program, international partnerships, and expanding the New Global Citizens Program across the country. Before joining New Global Citizens, Jennifer started and managed an education-focused NGO in Kenya, and hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Malou Foundation. She has traveled and volunteered extensively through Africa, Central America, South and Southeast Asia. Jennifer graduated from Santa Clara University with a double degree in political science and religious studies. You can learn more about New Global Citizens at newglobalcitizens.org, and I will put that link in the chat as well. So without further ado, actually, I do need to introduce our sponsors, too, before I hand it over to you, Jennifer. Let me move on to the next slide. Am I frozen here? This is not good.
This is Steve. I'm going to jump right in. A big thanks to our sponsors and supporters, Iron USA and the Global Campaign for Education.
Let's try this one more time. Let's see if I can move the slides. I can't. Without further ado, let me get Steve in here. Hang on
Lucy
2 seconds.
can't hear me. Jennifer, just plow ahead. We'll let you go.
Okay, great. Excellent. So thanks, Lucy. Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. Okay. Lucy, can you hear us?
Great.
All right. Well, I'm just going to continue through. Lucy, Steve, thanks for the introduction. I'm Jennifer Vollmann with New Global Citizens.
You guys hear me?
And I'm glad that we had, that Lucy introduced me. I just had a baby a few months ago, and so I'm actually in the nursery, so I have to excuse that kind of non-professional setting. Let's see, I think people are having some audio issues. I'm just going to continue through and then just join in when you can hear us. And so I also asked for a little bit of grace. I'm going on about 3 hours of sleep for the last 2 months, and this is the first time I've done the presentation in a while. So if you want to just wait for your question at the end, that would be great. So today we're going to talk about student global IQ and how you can develop student global IQ within your students and your organizations in your classrooms. Just as kind of a context, I work with students across the U.S. and my experience is within the U.S. So some of the examples I'm going to give, some of the stats I'm going to use are U.S. examples. So just as kind of for all of you international people joining, I'm using U.S. because that's the area that I know, and I don't assume to know other people's education kind of environment. But I still think you can get a lot out of the presentation. So to get started, we live in a world now where we really don't know what the next 20 years will look like as far as technology, as far as jobs, as far as education. And that's kind of the place that we're living in and the place that we have to teach our students in. And it's really it's a good thing and a bad thing. The unfortunate and the curse of it is that we don't know the kind of skills we really need to develop in students. We don't really know the content that they need to know. We don't really understand what the future jobs will be. So it can be a real curse in understanding what we have to do inside the classroom. But it's a blessing because we know that we don't know. We know that we don't know what the world will look like. We know we don't know what the technology will be. And so we can start to kind of take a step back and see, well, if that's the case, what do we know? We know that the world will be even more interconnected. We know that students have to be able to work, have to interact, have to live in a world that is constantly being driven closer and closer together. So knowing that, we know that we can then see what kind of skills the students need in that kind of environment. How can they be really good citizens in that environment? And so that's where the the global IQ comes into play. Is how do we develop a strong global IQ in students so that they can be citizens, they can interact, they can be workers, they can be leaders in the world now and in 20 years. So that's really the context in which the presentation is going to be in. So to give you a little bit more background on who I am, because I think it's important to know the background of the person presenting. New Global Citizens is a nonprofit NGO in the U.S. that works in the education space. We have curriculums, we have teacher trainings, we have after-school programs, all focused on developing a student's global perspective. How can they create change? How can they thrive in this new world and this future world that we live in? And that's really our focus. Later on in the presentation, I'm going to give a few examples based off of what we do and how we develop student global IQ. It is just, as a way to showcase kind of what I'm talking about and gives you some ideas that you can use in your classroom, in your organization, in your program. Okay, so we have 7 billion people in the world, which is a lot of people. And it's a good place to start when we talk about global IQ. We have to know how many people are there. Now, when we start with the idea of global education, many times we get stuck at this idea of global awareness. Now, global awareness is really the foundation in which we build the rest of the global skills that students need. But I've seen a lot of schools, a lot of classrooms, a lot of programs that just kind of focus on the global awareness piece of it and then forget to develop the really deep skills beyond that. Now, for example, global awareness, the way I define it is that there's 7 billion people in the world. If I'm globally aware, I know that. And I know that people come from different countries that have different cultures, different languages, different education systems than what I'm used to. But it stops at that. I know that these differences exist, and that's all that I know. Now, to take it a step beyond, we don't need students who know that. What we need are students who can collaborate in that situation, who can communicate to each other, who can work across borders, who can interact in a responsible way. Those are the students that we need to develop, not just the ones who are aware that this world is different and that people are different. And that's where we get into this global IQ, is that we need students who go beyond just this awareness into really being able to thrive in this new world that we live in. Now, one of the issues, and again, this is an American example, is that there is very little exposure in the education system to global issues. And for me, and for New Global Citizens, that's really the foundation for all of this. Global issues are key in having students really go beyond global awareness to a deeper understanding and a deeper, deeper understanding, a deeper way to be able to work within the world as these global issues. It really connects all these different ideas together. For example, poverty is a global issue. And if you understand poverty, then you have to understand that there is human rights involved, that there is gender equality involved, that there is water involved, that there is infrastructure involved, political systems, you name it. Poverty is wrapped up into many different complex issues in one. And you also know, if you know this is a global issue, that poverty in, say, Mexico is not just solely isolated in Mexico. Same in the U.S. Poverty in the U.S. is not just because of the U.S. There are other countries interplay within each other's poverty. So now you really understand that this is a global issue. It's not just poverty that I see down the street, but poverty down the street is also intertwined with poverty I see when I look at TV commercials, right, for impoverished, different places in the country, or when I see in textbooks or I see on the internet. It's really interconnected. So global issues are a strong foundation we need to have students aware of and educated about to get beyond just this global awareness piece of it. So for an example, 43% of 18 to 24-year-olds are able to identify Mexico as America's largest source of immigrants today. There's a couple other stats on there that just kind of show where we are, again, with U.S. students are, an understanding of just the basic understanding of the world around them. 37% cannot locate China on a map, which is crazy. If you had like a map and you threw a dart at it on the wall, you would probably hit China. So these are kind of situations that we're working in now that we really need to educate students beyond first global awareness and then beyond. It's obviously important, you can read the quote there, but companies are looking for global citizens. They're not just looking for somebody who understands how to code on the computer, but they need people who can work in partnership with each other and also with people across the country and then across the world. It's well beyond just people who I work with in my own community. It's well beyond that now. And that's now. And in 20 years, it's going to be even more interconnected. 63% of businesses, executives leave their college graduates lack the skills to compete at a global level. I think these are all things that we know, but just kind of remind ourselves that this is a really important piece as we develop students' global competency and global IQ. And then finally, the jobs tied to international trade. There are many jobs currently tied to international trade, and it is, again, expanding even more. 23 million jobs right now in the U.S. And then finally, globalization means domestic job growth. So growth is based off of our students being more and more globally aware and globally competent. And the thing is that, again, as Americans, we know that we want our students to be more globally aware. We're looking for college requirements, international courses, and language training and studying abroad. We know we want this. What we're lacking is the skills to get students to that point, right? We're lacking kind of the awareness inside the classroom so students can go to college and be able to really thrive in this new global environment. And the thing is what we find in Global Citizens is that students really want this. Our After School program is a program that's completely driven by students. Students sign up and they run it themselves. And we have so many students who come to us wanting to be more globally aware, but they don't really know where to go. And they really, really want this. They understand the support and they're interested in it. And those are just some quotes from our students who understand how important global perspective is. All right, so let's get to the Intelligence Quotient. So the idea of a global IQ is based off of a normal IQ, an Intelligence Quotient. And it's a test that obviously gauges and assesses your intelligence. It is really a predictor of educational achievement, of job performance, and of income. And people can use this. It's important to see, you know, if you're intelligent, then clearly you'll have educational achievement, job performance, and higher income. That's kind of the idea of it, which is an important test. But I think what's even more important going forward is the idea of a global IQ. In the same way that an IQ test can tell you or can predict, you know, future education achievement, income, and job performance, a global IQ will do that as well in the future. For students to be successful going forward, they have to have a strong and high global IQ. And that's, you know, based off of all those stats I just tell you, our students aren't quite there yet, but they want to be. And the environment is making it so they have to be. The good thing with a global IQ is that it's not something that you are born with. You're not born with a global IQ, right? You don't have that card stacked against you. It is something that you develop. And you are constantly developing it. I hope to develop and increase my global IQ every day. When I travel, when I meet other people, when I read articles in the newspaper, hopefully that is constantly increasing my global IQ. And that's the great thing, is that we can start this in the classroom tomorrow, right? We can start to bring the world into the classroom and students can start to develop this immediately. So what are some components of global IQ? There's a much larger framework that we use around global IQ, but just to kind of piece it out for this presentation, here are some of the key elements of it. Again, these are both kind of a combination of skills and mindsets that students developed within inside this. So exploring the word is both a skill set, but it's also a mindset. What we want to create are students who constantly are learning, who are constantly looking at the world around them and trying to understand it, trying to learn about it, and then trying to interact within it. And that's what we hope to develop in our students, are both, again, a skill set and then a mindset that they always constantly want to be more and more global. And I'll get into the details of these in just a minute. Before we go into Global IQ, though, it is important that before we do anything within inside the classroom, especially around global, we have to engage the students in it. Obviously, you're stuck if the students aren't engaged in what you're actually teaching in the classroom. So what we do here is we make sure that students, one, understand the global issues. This is what the key for us, again, is the global issues kind of are the glue that holds all this together. When students understand that poverty is more than just something in a book, or they can see it, but then they see how that affects other pieces in their lives, other pieces within the world, it becomes really alive for them and very exciting for them. So this is a really key element of the Global IQ, is this youth engagement. The other piece I think is really important is collaboration and global partnership. So again, what we try to do and what we talk with the most with our teachers is how do you bring real examples in the classroom? It's not just kind of this one-dimensional thing, but that these issues have faces. These issues have organizations working on these keys, working on these issues and these solutions. How do you really show students that it's not just something that they should care about when they're 30, but something they should care about, today and right now, and they can be active participants in the solution. I'll talk a little bit more about how you can do this in a minute, but these are two key elements about Global IQ. It's not just skills, not just knowledge, but it's this real tangible action that students can be a part of today and right now. So the first one is explore the world, and I noticed the spelling issue because I made this slide at probably 3 o'clock in the morning when I was awake, so it's supposed to be explore. So the first one is explore the world. So this is both a skill and a mindset. The skill in this is how do you research issues, and how do you make sure you have different perspectives on issues. So you have to know that when you're researching an issue that has to do with a couple of different countries, that one, for example, you don't just use Google US, you might use Google UK, or you might use Google Kenya, or whatever that is, to get different resources. That just because I'm an American student, all American writers don't have the best perspective on different international issues, right? So how do you really investigate the world effectively so you get the right research and understand your sources? That's from an academic perspective. But the other piece is a mindset. How do you invest in students so they understand that they need to constantly be exploring the world, constantly looking for new resources, new papers, new articles, new friends that have to do with something different than what they know in their own backyard. We want students to always be explorers of the world and really striving to get this information and striving to be become a competent citizen. So that's a mindset, too, that we need to develop within this Global IQ. Here's an example that we do within New Global Citizens. So we have a lesson that it's hard to see here, but it's different stats on different diseases that cause child mortality within a specific country. So what we'll do is we'll have students look at all of these different examples of different diseases and see what causes the most deaths in this country and what causes this, what causes most children to get sick. So once they look at the data, what they have to do now is write a paper as if they were a mother with a dying child in a specific country. So they write a paper, what would they do? How would they find health care? How would they find a solution? How would their child die? How deadly is the disease? How much does medicine cost? So it helps students understand that, one, these diseases are terrible, then what is it like to live through that? What is it like to have a child who might be sick with that? To get students to look at different resources, try to understand different perspectives, and start to explore beyond just kind of what their preconceived notions might be. The next is recognize perspective. So the first key in this is recognizing your own perspective. And with students, this is really critical, is to have students understand that they have a certain view of the world because of a lot of different factors and a lot of different influences. And that view might constantly be changing. In fact, it probably is. But once they understand that they have a specific perspective on the world, the next is to understand that other people have different perspectives based off of their experiences. So my perspective is a white 30-year-old recent mother who lives in Phoenix, Arizona. So that is shaped by a lot of different pieces and a lot of different influences. And if I'm talking to somebody who is a 16-year-old woman in Kenya, is going to have very different ideas and very different ways of approaching things than I will. And so it's recognizing that those differences exist. Now, an example of how we do this, one of our lessons is for students to look at a different issue in a country, let's say in Guatemala, and they explore different ways people there are solving problems. So how does a local grassroots organization try to solve a problem versus a larger international NGO? And what they look at and what they try to uncover is the international NGO might have a lot of solutions to this problem and a lot of resources, but maybe doesn't understand the local community. Whereas the local grassroots organization understands the issues in the local community, but maybe doesn't have as many resources as the international NGO. So the idea is to get students to look at different ways of solving problems based off of different perspectives organizations might have. So the next idea is, how do you communicate ideas? Now, once you are exploring the world and understand how to get different resources, and now you recognize that we all have different perspectives, how then do you communicate ideas across those different perspectives? And this is important because it's not just, writing an email and maybe translating it, right? It's a lot deeper than that. It's understanding different communication styles, what's appropriate, how do you really get an idea across in many different ways. Again, it's a lot deeper. It's both a knowledge kind of content and a skills, and the mindset behind this is the desire to do so. It's the desire that I want my message to come across to you in the most appropriate way, in the most meaningful way, to make an impact or to solve a problem or to finalize whatever we're doing. The idea is we really want students to be able to have a different tool set for different ways of doing communication that works effectively. And in mindset, they want to make sure that it's done effectively as well. So as an example of what we do in the classroom, we have students research a local issue in a different country. So let's say it is a water, say it's a disease in Malawi. And let's say it's the flu, and it's caused by simply washing his hands. So if you wash your hands, you're less likely to spread the flu from Malawi. And what we do is we have students research the different issues, and so they research that, and then they have to come up with a way of communicating that to the community based off of, let's say, their public health care worker, and they have to communicate this. So some students might draw pictures, some students might do have a little speech we'll do to the different communities. The idea is to show students that the way they communicate this kind of simple thing like how you wash your hands is very different in different countries. You have to do with literacy rates, you have to do with maybe cultural issues, you have to do with resources, a lot of things you have to do just to communicate the simple idea of washing hands. And it helps students realize that there are different ways you have to communicate in different countries. And collaborate. So collaborate is the step even beyond this. So just because you can communicate ideas, right, doesn't mean that you can really work together to solve a problem or to get a product done or to create something. Collaboration is really difficult. I mean, I think collaboration is difficult, just with my family members. But getting students to the point where they can both understand other people and then collaborate is really critical. Now, the way we do this is we do this by helping students collaborate inside their own classroom. So we do a lot of project-based learning and helping students work on teams to take action and to support different global issues. But this is, especially with family members. Thanks, David. But this is a really important piece of the program, an important piece that we need to get students to, and it's definitely one of the final kind of pieces that we can get to the Global I.Q, but it's a critical component of it. And the final piece that I really like to focus on, and my organization focuses on a lot, which is the taking action piece. So it's a lot to say that I can communicate different languages, and I might be able to collaborate with people, and I can recognize ideas. But the whole point of this and why I want all of this to happen is for things to change, for things to happen. And taking action is this kind of aha moment where it really all comes together. And it's one of the most important things that we can really do in the classroom is bring these issues to life, bring these skills to life. And if you can do that effectively, I think we really can create students with the mindset that they always want to have an enhanced global IQ. They always want to be increasing that. So what we do in Global Citizens is we focus on taking action. And I'm going to use our example as a way that you can take action with inside the classroom. So what we like to do is we want to take students and make them into active learners into global issues. How do we do that? So we create projects where what students do really matters. It matters to them and it matters to people in different countries. So we do this through a couple different programs. We've already been over that, so I won't go over that again. We start by focusing on global issues. So that's, again, really where our foundation is, are in these 10 different global issues. There are obviously many, many more issues. We just use these 10 because you got to start somewhere. So we have poverty, education, child mortality, maternal health, gender equality. We have environmental issues, armed conflict, etc. So we use technology a lot. All of our resources, everything we do is online, and we have a lot of students who connect with each other and with other organizations online as well. It's really our kind of key. And what's great with technology, as we're seeing with this tremendous conference, is that you can really connect with people in a, I mean, it's not as good, obviously, as you are in person, but in this situation and with situations with students and people around the world, it provides this really great space for students to interact and really start to develop their ideas and their global IQ. So we have 45 global projects that we work with. Global projects are organizations around the world, they're grassroots, so locally based, and they're solving global issues within their own resources or within their own communities. And this is how we bring these ideas and these global issues to life. We showcase these different organizations who are doing phenomenal work in their own communities, and we show students that poverty is a big issue, but here's how it's being alleviated in this small part of the world. We help students make that connection between what they see as poverty and what poverty might exist like in different countries. So we have organizations we work with all around the world. For an example, we have AFGHA in Tanzania. This is by far my most favorite organization that we work with. If you don't know AFGHA, they're fabulous. They train rats to sniff out landmines, and also they can smell tuberculosis within saliva samples. So this is really great. You can see the rats right there, and they send out, and they can actually smell the different components of landmines, and then they'll scratch and let the handler know that that's where the landmine is. It's phenomenal. I love this organization. So that's an organization that we work with for an example. Another example is Afghan Institute of Learning. This is an organization that is in Afghanistan, and they support local schools within the community for women and girls. They also have sewing classes, and they do different job training programs to get students and women and girls both educated and prepared for their life. So what students will do is they'll go through, they'll pick an issue, they will pick one of the organizations that we work with, and then they'll take action. So our action is defined a couple different ways. One is to educate others about the world's challenges. So that might be a announcement on their morning videos to their students. It might be a presentation to the school. It could be flyers. We let students really allow their talents to take hold. We've had students do amazing murals on the wall. We let them really create things that speak to them and use their skills the best. We also do fundraising. So a small amount of resources can make a really tremendous difference. This can be the most tangible way for students to see a difference. It's really easy to see the money that you have and then see how it can make a difference. For example, if you want to support one of the AFGHA rats, I believe it's $7 a month to support their training and their food that they have. So that's really tangible to see. Here's $7. Here's the rat. I can help the rat along. But we want to go beyond just fundraising. Fundraising is excellent, but we also want this education to be a part of it. And the final piece is advocacy. We want students to see that beyond just education and fundraising, advocacy is really where we want students to go. That's where the real change happens, is when this advocacy component. So many of our classrooms will do all three of these. They'll do one, they'll do two. It really doesn't make a difference to us. We just want students to really take action and do something about this issue that they care about and about this organization. So we provide lots of tools and resources. In our experience, starting out with the after-school program and now having classes, that is the most important piece, are tools and resources. And there are a lot more resources out there. I think somebody put the Asian Society link up there. That's a great organization with resources and tools about global education. There's conferences. But it's really important that our educators are supported with resources, because it's very difficult to do this by yourself. Find an organization to work with, find the appropriate resources, structuring this for your school. It is hard to do. That's why, I encourage everybody to seek additional resources if you really want to do action in global education within inside the classroom. We don't get that. So let me do an example of what this looks like in the classroom. We have one of my favorite stories is a teacher wanted to make her students more aware of women's issues. So she started a women's issues course. And she was finding that her students were really depressed after the course. And she was, like, wow, why are you guys so sad? And it was because the state of women in the world kind of sucks. And it's unfortunate, and the students in class thought was, wow, like, great, like, this is unfortunate, what can we do about it? We can't do anything, now we know all these terrible things, and now we're stuck. And as a teacher, she obviously didn't want the rest of her students to walk away from the class feeling that, this sucks. And so she decided that she would, she worked with us, and we put her in touch with an organization called Women's Awareness Center in Nepal. And what they do is it's local women start their own center, and they teach women how to save money, how to raise goats, and how to start businesses. They actually have a microfinancing system, so if a woman wanted to take a loan out to buy a goat so that she could start her own business, they do that. And so at the end of the teacher's course now, they learned all these things that suck about the women's state in the world, but then they connected the students to this organization. And the students learned what this small organization, the small part of the world, is doing to make a difference in that community. And now they felt empowered. They now understand global issues. They understand how to do research. They understand how to collaborate with each other, how to communicate with each other, how to communicate with this organization, Nepal. And now they're doing it, taking action. What they did is they raised about $300 in support of some loans and some of their classes in Nepal. And now the students felt excited and empowered, and she still gets emails from these students, this is 5 years ago, today, saying, hey, did you read this article about this issue? Did you read this? Do you know about this? All related to women's issues. And so the students now were empowered and excited and became active learners and are constantly exploring the world and have a very high global IQ because of this change. And so the action piece is really important. That's, again, kind of the glue that holds all this together is this component that allows students to really be empowered. Another example I have, in case you think that this is impossible to do in my classroom, this is an example of, there was an English teacher who taught global issues in her class that focused on English in the Middle Ages. But she would think, how can I include global issues in my class that teaches English for the Middle Ages? What she did is she had students explore sexism in the Middle Ages and sexism today as it relates to women's issues and gender equality. And so she had students explore, what's different, what's the same, how is the global impact different. It was this really interesting project that she did with her students that brought the world into her classroom that you would think there's no way you can bring kind of current information into this class. And so it's a great example to show that global issues really fit no matter what subject that you're doing. And it's important to develop global IQ in every subject, in every classroom. So finally, I'll leave you with a great story. This is a picture of one of our students and a picture of Sakina Yacobi, who runs AFGHA Institute of Learning. Stephanie, that's the girl, the student there, was supported AFGHA Institute of Learning through one of our programs when she was in high school. What her school did is they learned that Afghanistan poetry is a very important part of Afghani culture. So they decided to have their own poetry nights. So they had 5 poetry nights in their high school. And they raised about $2,000, which is incredible for AFGHA Institute of Learning. And Stephanie, her parents were immigrants from Mexico. She's a first-generation American, brilliant student, was at Georgetown, and was really struggling to find her place. She was kind of felt at a place. She's a freshman. She wasn't familiar with DC. She wasn't familiar with different, people there coming from different backgrounds. And interesting enough, she actually ended up joining the AFGHANI cultural group because she felt most at home and most recognizable in that culture because she learned so much about it through the program. What's really great is a couple years later, she was able to meet Sakina and Kobe, which is the picture there, when she was in DC, and she comes up to her and she said, I don't think you know who I am, but I was a teacher, or excuse me, I was a student with New Global Citizens, and we helped you out. And she's like, oh, Sakina goes, no, Stephanie, I know who you are. You were the amazing school that did the poetry nights at your school to help support my schools. Thank you so much. You have made me more of a global citizen. And that's just a really great example of these two worlds colliding, and both of them being able to really recognize and respect each other. And then for Stephanie to realize all of her efforts really were meaningful. They really did make an impact. And she will constantly be an explorer of the world and a global citizen because of that. So that's a great story that I like to leave with. My website is newglobalcitizens.org. My email is just jennifer@newglobalcitizens.org, and then my Twitter account, which I swear will be more active now that I don't have, now that I'm not taking care of a baby as much, is Jen Vollman at Twitter. It's been kind of dormant these days. So if you have any questions, I would.
Hi, Jen. I'm actually here now, so hopefully I won't go away. We're so glad to have you here. I have a question for you. How can schools get involved? What kinds of programs do you have that schools can adopt? Is it after school, but it's also curriculum? What are the different options, and how would they go about, getting more involved and what age levels and that sort of thing?
Great. So we work predominantly with 6th through 12th grade. We are launching some lower grade. We'll do 4th and 5th next year. But right now it's 6th through 12th grade. We have after-school programs that are for high school students. All you have to do is go to our website and you can sign up right there if you want to start an after-school club. Our curriculum we do charge for our curriculum. It is $300 a classroom for the whole year. And with that, you get all the resources, you get full staff support, you get online teacher community, you get resources, you name it, you got it. And that's for $300 a year. And then we have professional development that we currently do only on site, but in January we're launching our online version in which anybody can join and get trained within our professional development.
That's fabulous. That's great. So just to join, if they wanted to start their own club, there's no cost for that. That's
There's
really
no cost.
fabulous.
It's free. Okay. Everything you can find on our website. You can sign up on our website. It's all the information is there.
Okay. I keep thinking that there's so many great connections with other organizations that are part of this conference. That's the other thing that occurred to me listening to you. There's a group, I don't know if you've met them, called Lit World. And have you met them?
No, I haven't.
Pam Allen is their executive director, and she's a literacy expert to begin with and has a consulting business that's called Lit Life, but then she has Lit World, which is a nonprofit, and they do book clubs around the world. And some of them are innovation hubs, and they have more technology than their regular Lit clubs. And their innovation centers are in Kibera, Kenya, Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Manila, Philippines, and Harlem. So you might want to talk to them. And I want to say that one of Pam's co-workers is presenting this conference too. Her name is Yaya. I can't remember what her last name is, but I know she's doing a presentation. And there just seems like so much synergy between all these great organizations that are represented here and opportunities for kids.
And Lit World?
Yeah, Lit World. Yeah. Anybody have, oh, here's a question we have from Barbara Cotter, who is our resident attendee. I think she's logging the most hours. Hi, Barbara. What strategies do you have for identifying what success looks like in students? Really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So what we focus on, as far as evaluation, we focus on skills. So what we do is we have teachers fill out evaluation of students after they've done the program, and we focus on increased collaboration skills, increased awareness of global issues, increased communication skills, and then increased engagement. So that's defined in a lot of different ways. For our after-school program, we actually do a student survey, and we have students do the survey before they take it afterwards. And what we're looking for are students to have increased responsibility. So how do they feel responsible for things before they took the program and then afterwards? And then how they perceive other people's responsibility within global issues. And that's been one of the most interesting, I think, ways that we're looking for success, is how do students view themselves, what were the mindset about how they fit into the world and how they fit into the global community before and then after. And what we look for is our students more engaged and feel more responsible for what they do in their actions. And that for us is one of the biggest success indicators, is students who now say, this is my responsibility, I want to be a global citizen, I want to do more, I want to be more engaged. And that's a huge piece. If we can get every student to do that, that would be great.
And the other question I have for you is, we have one from Balbo who says, Students Without Borders is online with you today. We would like to know more about the Global Citizens Hangout series.
Oh, yeah. So this is, every few months, what we do is we have one of the leaders within a global issue join us for a Google Hangout. So we have had students, we've had people who work on human rights issues, we've had people work on technology issues, how to connect students. We've had people in all different parts of the world join us and talk about what they do and what they're doing to solve different global issues in their community. And that also comes with the program. If you're after school, everything's free of charge for that. It comes with the curriculum as well. And you can actually join live, or everything's recorded and on YouTube as well.
Awesome. That's a great use of Hangouts. And then, which we love, and we'd actually would love to do our conference in Hangouts, but by the way, it's just hard to generate that many rooms for this many people. So we love Blackboard Collaborate to a certain extent, but Hangouts even more. Antoinette says, how does your program support educators who work in low socioeconomic schools where global thinking is not necessarily supported?
Yeah, so we also have scholarships, particularly if you're in Arizona, that's even easier for us to do scholarships, but we also have scholarships as well. And part of the scholarships is if you're in that area where you can't afford the program, if you'll do simple things for us, like take an extra evaluation or provide us some more feedback on the content that we provide, we're more than happy to provide that program free of charge if there's a teacher who really wants to do it who can't afford it. And then what we also try to do on a general perspective is we're trying to be part of the conversation around global education, so that it's not just the private schools or the schools in upper middle class America that can do this program, but every school can. And we've had a lot of success here at home in Arizona working with some of the most socioeconomic disadvantaged communities and districts within Arizona. So we've had a lot of success there, changing the conversation from, we can't, this isn't necessary, to, oh, we really have to do this in the classroom. And everything we do is tied to Common Core as well. So it's really relevant. It's not just an extra thing, but it's something that can really be integrated within the classroom in every subject area.
Balbo had a follow-up question, which was, how can we find out when your Hangouts on air are? I just posted your Google Plus page, but I'm wondering, is there another place we can look?
Yes, I don't think we embarrassingly don't do very much on Google Plus, but it's on both the website, and also if you sign up for some of our newsletters, we put in all of our newsletters as to when the next one is, and then we always post it on our social media. So if you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, we always put up recent when the next one is as well.
And your Twitter handle is Jen Vollman, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
Great. Another question I had for you is, how do you find the partner organizations in other countries? Do you yourself travel to these places? How do you find them?
Yeah, so actually the way that we work is we partner with large NGOs and organizations in the U.S. that is focused on providing grants to grassroots organizations abroad. So what we want to do is we want to focus on educating our students. We don't want to focus on finding really good organizations internationally, because there's so many other organizations that do that. So we work with AFGHA, with Global Fund for Children, with IDEX. We work with really excellent organizations that understand we have missions that are aligned to the idea of how we want to do the funding and how we want our students to be engaged. And then we make sure they have evaluations for all the organizations they work with. They have financial transparency. There's some sort of way that they're making sure that the organization is being financially transparent and is being effective. So we change our global projects from year to year, because some organizations, they find different ones, or some organizations, have gone off of funding and now they're being sustainable, whatever that is, we always like to change it to make sure that we have the most effective organizations that we allow our students to participate with. The final piece of that is within our partnership, if students do choose to raise money, 100% of that goes to that organization. So we don't take anything, and neither does a partner organization, which if you know is not, nonprofits is huge. So 100% of say that $300 goes directly to that partner that they're supporting.
That's fabulous. And we have another question, a follow-up question from Balbo, who wants to know: are you looking for a Canadian chapter? Are you? And that actually, I would like to follow up on that. Are you doing any work with student groups abroad outside of the United States?
So we do work with some schools in Canada. So yes, absolutely, we would love more Canadian schools. And we are also speaking with a few international schools who have international students, some American. Again, we're really excited about that. We always come from the place that we know American students, and so our curriculum is written in that way. So as long as everybody is on board that understands that, then that works. We never want to make assumptions that are, what we write is also just good for students in different countries. We always want to assume that we know American students, but that's where our assumptions kind of rest.
Okay, I will see if anybody else has any more questions. Jen's here for a few more minutes. I would love to have you guys ply her with your questions. Anybody else? I think this has been a really exciting opportunity to learn about your program, and I hope that many of the people in this room will go sign up right now. I think there's a need for this, and to fit it in as an after-school program in schools that are already kind of filled with their programming, I think is a really nice option too.
Yeah, we like to. The other program we have, which I didn't mention, is we have a community-based program, which is made for YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs, organizations that aren't on school campus but are outside of that, because we really want students to be able to have global issues and a global education no matter where they are, no matter what situation that they're in.
Here's a follow-up question to that too. I'm just thinking more about the informal learning space. Are you guys into anything like badging or anything yet? Is that something that you're exploring?
We're exploring that. We haven't. We're not into it yet, but we're kind of seeing. We're taking a back seat to see how everything kind of works out, and then we'll go forward from after that.
Yeah, Ben just asked that same question, so he must be reading my mind. I think IRON, which is one of our sponsors of this conference, I believe that they're doing some work with badging too. So I think it's just a matter of time before something emerges along those lines. I would love to have badges for this event. I think that'd be really cool. If you attended one of these sessions, you got a badge, you got the new Global Citizen badge for coming here or something. So anyway, it looks like we have lots of good comments in the chat. If you want to take a look at those, and people who are excited and want to pass on your information. And if you have any other questions, guys, you have her contact information and know where to follow up. And her Twitter handle is Jen Vollmann, at Jen Vollmann, JenVollmann.
Just one in on the Jen.
Just one N? Okay, good. Okay, I'm going crazy with all the double letters. And thank you so much for coming and for being part of this, and give our best to your new baby daughter and to Jamie. And we'll see you online. I think you're having another session. Somebody from your organization is giving another session too. Do you know when that is?
Don't ask the woman who just came out from maternity leave. I don't know what's going on with my organization.
Okay. There is another presentation coming up from you guys. I'll try and find it and post it in the chat. So you're still on leave, so thank you so much for giving your time when you have a lot going on.
Yeah, no problem. This is a great conference. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We're posting the next session links in the chat in the main page, and we'll see you online. Thanks again.